welcome to episode 2 of my podcast, still unnamed podcast. I'm Becky. I'm coming to you from Norwich, which is in East Anglia, and this is my maybe 4th attempt to record this podcast. So there might be some little clips where I'm wearing a different jumper, and there might be some little bits where the lighting's different and the camera angle's slightly different, because I might have said something better in one of my previous attempts to record, and so I might chop those in. But that's just how it's gonna be. It's just how it's gonna be. So quite a lot has happened since the last time I spoke to you, most of which we'll probably just get into in the end of the podcast, where I'll talk a bit more about just general life stuff. And I don't have a huge amount of, well, I say I don't have a huge amount of knitting content. I'm sure that I can probably talk about my knitting content for long enough that it'll feel like there's plenty of it. Let's start with the obvious, the finished object, and the what I am wearing today, which is this, my jumper. The name, I can't pronounce it, it'll be down here with the designer's name as well. It is finished. I finished it a couple of weeks ago, maybe like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and I absolutely love it. It is yet to be blocked, so it's not finished, so I've not taken like finished object pictures. Definitely need to block the whatever this is called, neckband, to try and get that to lay a little bit flatter, but I am super happy with it. I will stand up so you can get a good shot. There we go, so that's the colour work, and yeah, it's a really nice fit. Really pleased with the fit. It's not too fitted, and it's not too tight on the sleeves. It's maybe a little bit tighter than I would have gone for, but that's just me. I normally go for things that are quite slouchy, and then I always think I wish this was a bit more fitted, so maybe it's good that it's a bit tighter than I would normally go for. So yeah, but I really love the length of the cuffs. The sleeves might actually be a touch long for me, but I was really worried that they were going to be too short, so I think I did do a little bit of extra length on the sleeves, because I just really wanted this to be perfect, wearable, and I definitely wouldn't wear it if the sleeves were too short. But long sleeves is like much easier to deal with. I can just roll them up. I tend to sort of fluctuate between liking sort of, is it like bracelet length sleeves, and then like really long, like covering my finger sleeves, depending on how I'm feeling. But I think these sleeves will be quite versatile for me. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. I'm wearing it now. I've got like a long sleeve top underneath, but it's quite low cut, so this is sort of here, and it's tickly but it's not scratchy, so I'm really pleased with that. It is quite warm, so I might have to take it off at some point. I am sat inside, so but I'm thinking it's going to be perfect for when I'm in Farnham in a couple of weeks' time with my mum. We're going to unravel. I'm so excited about. I think I mentioned last time that we were going. Really excited about that. But I think it's going to be perfect. I'll probably just take like a light waterproof jacket with me that can like fold up really easily in my bag, and then I can just wear this when we're out and about in London, and when we're at the festival, and then hopefully I'll be nice and cosy without being sort of overly hot, and I won't have to worry about carrying a coat, so it'll be perfect, I think. So really pleased with that. There will be updated Ravelry page, and I'll put some pictures on my Instagram once it's been blocked. I did everything to pattern, so there's no kind of modifications that I made that I'll need to talk to you about. The only thing that happened while I was knitting this, which I'd completely forgotten about until just now when I was wearing it and looking at the colour work, is that one of these sort of slightly later rows I knit across it, and then when I came to knit the next row I realised that everything was slightly off. The stitches weren't lining up in pattern correctly, and I couldn't figure out why at first. It was really bizarre because I hadn't thought that I had done anything wrong in the previous row, because it seemed to finish correctly. The previous row seemed to finish in pattern and there was nothing to indicate that I'd done anything wrong. So I went and looked back and I counted across the row, and I was saying, okay, so that should be, you know, this colour, that should be that colour, and then I found the point in the row previous where I had started to go wrong. I think it was like 1 or 2 stitches off, and not every stitch in the chart was wrong, so it was just like I'd get all of the correct green, light green bits, and then I would make a mistake when it came to the dark green bits. So some of the stitches were correct and some of them were not, and I was kind of thinking, do I pull back the entire row? And that would have been the best option. Do I pull back the entire row, or do I just knit the stitches down and correct them as I go along? And that's the option I went for, because I thought, well, it's only like 2 stitches per repeat that's wrong, so that should be fine. I can correct that really easily. So I knit across, and then I was knitting essentially knitting 2 rows of this chart at the same time, which didn't seem like a bad idea to me at all. It seemed like a perfectly reasonable thing that any normal person might do. So knitting 2 rows of this chart at the same time, lots of, okay, that's a light green stitch and it should be turning into a dark green stitch, very complicated, very brightly lit room, don't anybody talk to me, it's going to take me a couple of hours to do kind of thing. And then I finished the row, and when it came to the next row I realised that I had made a mistake, because I was going backwards and forwards from 2 rows of the chart. I had then made mistakes in the next row, and instead of ripping it back and just correcting the whole row, I just did the same thing again. Thankfully that time it did actually work, but I definitely, by the end of those couple of rows, I was just like, right, you know, next time if anything were to go wrong I just need to accept it, pull back and try again. But yeah, that was quite frustrating, and I was definitely getting to the point where I was like, have I just ruined this sweater? Do I have to like accept that I've made a mistake and just keep the mistake in there? But no, I persevered. So, but I am so pleased that I went back and did it. There was a time when I would have just ignored the fact that there was an incorrect row and just carried on going, and I would have just had one row where everything was slightly off and then the row after would have been back on pattern. But I'm so glad that I went back and fixed it, because now I think there is like a slight error here, but it might just be where it's not blocked, but I don't know. But I think I can deal with one stitch, you know, 1 stitch out. I think it'll be fine. I don't have to go back and fix it. I don't have to. I am going to take this off though, because like I say, it's quite warm and the sun is like coming right in onto my face, so I'm fairly toasty, so I'm going to take this off. And that is it for projects that I have finished since the last podcast. I do have a finished object here to show you, which I spoke about last time and didn't show you because they were in the wash, and that is my socks that I spoke about last time. My simple Skype socks, I think is how you say the name of it. Here they are, beautiful socks, and the yarn is by Baby Longlegs. I mentioned last time that she doesn't dye anymore, unfortunately, and this yarn is really, really lovely. I really love the colours. It's got, you won't be able to see here I'm sure, but there are just some really beautiful blues and greens that really just like speak to my soul. Every time they came up as I was knitting through them, I like savoured those like few stitches that I got out of each colour, because they were just such a beautiful colour, like really beautiful kind of dual toned greens and blues, and oh, they were just a joy to knit those little bits. I mean, the yarn itself is just absolutely beautiful, but those particular colours were just wonderful. So yeah, really pleased with these socks, really pleased with the size of them. The only problem is I don't know what the fibre content is, because I don't have the ball band anymore. It was quite an old ball of yarn, and I didn't have the ball band anymore, so I don't know what's in it, which is a bit of a concern because I have worn them a couple of times and the heel is starting to get quite soft looking, quite fuzzy. I don't know if you can see. And I'm concerned if it's felting, then that's okay. If it's like slowly felting, then that's okay because that's going to reinforce, right? But if it's wearing out, if there's no nylon in it, or very, very little nylon in it, I'm just scared that they're going to wear out, and I don't want them to wear out. And I haven't actually washed them yet, because I'm scared of felting them, because I don't know if there's any nylon in them, so I'm going to have to wash them by hand. I have strictly forbidden my husband from washing these because he washed a pair of my socks once and they felted after I told him not to wash them, so I have told him not to wash these, and I think that basically has meant that he will not wash any of my hand knit socks, which is fine because, you know, better to be safe than sorry, I suppose. But yes, my simple Skype socks, really, really pleased with those. Just need to decide what I'm going to do about washing them. I seem to remember reading probably quite a while ago that the yarn harlot just washes hers while she's in the bath. So she wears them, and then when she's washing her feet she washes her socks, and then she leaves them over the side to dry, which sounds like a pretty good idea, so I might just do that, but we'll see. We shall see. So let's move right along into what I'm currently working on. I feel like I'm not working on that much at the moment. After I got the jumper finished, and I had a really good clear out of projects that were on the go, I was kind of left with not very much on the needles, and with some of the other stuff that's been going on for us, I just haven't had as much time or as like much access to my yarn as I would have liked, and so I've not really been casting too much on. Having said that, I'm sure I'm now going to like delve into my bags and it's going to seem like I've got lots on, but I think last time I showed you the baby blanket I was working on. I have got a little bit further on that. I think I've got an extra 4 rows on it now than I did last time. I'm still really loving this. This is definitely a like in the car crochet, or like if I don't really have any mental capacity for counting or anything like that. I think that as complicated as this gets, is counting to 4. So so yeah, I'm really, really loving it. I'm really loving how the colours are working together. So I'm just excited to add more length to it. I have until June to get this finished, and now that I really know what I'm doing, I'm getting through the rows quite quickly. So I'm thinking that this should be easily finished by June. So we'll see. I guess this will be probably be a project that you won't see very often from now on. Maybe once I've got all of the colours in at least once, then I'll show it to you again so you can see, and then maybe just the finished piece. So yeah, it's really, really lovely. And just in case you were wondering, this is the yarn that I'm using. I've got it in this kind of mauve colour, this really nice kind of, is it like sagey green, like kind of baby pink, a baby blue, and then this yellowy kind of colour. It's a bit, I feel like it's a bit brighter than the other colours, but it's still really nice. So, and then there's a white. So there we go, that's the baby blanket. Oh, and the pattern is the Attic 24 ripple blanket. So if you watched my Vlogmas, you'll have seen me go through my knitting basket and clear out some things, and you might remember that I discovered that I had a Tenya pattern by Caitlin Hunter. Is that right? Yeah, I just suddenly thought, is she Caitlin? I had cast on a tengia and kind of forgotten about it, and now it's all tangled. So I got it back out again, was looking at it and realised I had absolutely no idea how far through I had gotten. And so I thought, well, easiest thing to do is to just rip it all out and start again, and I have done that, and as I say, it's now horribly tangled. This is what is going on here. Here it is. This is beautiful, right? I need to go back in the next row and take out all the stitch markers because I didn't have enough on hand, and they're actually just really annoying me. I was putting them in to mark the pattern repeats. I don't think I'm going to need it really, so I just need to get them out because it's making it really heavy, and is just getting on my nerves really. So I've only done the cast on and then the first round. I think you knit around to join it all up before you start the lace pattern at the bottom, and I need to get going on that, but that's been on hold because I started a test knit, which I'm very excited about because I've never done a test knit before, and I was talking to my mum about it and she was like, I don't really see why it's any different from knitting anything else. She was excited. She meant more that, like, why was I a bit stressed about applying for a test knit? And I was just really worried that I wouldn't get it finished in time, or that I wouldn't do it to a high enough quality, or that I'd just get really stuck with something really simple and then I'd have to ask and I'd feel really dumb. But I did it, I applied, and I was accepted, and this is what I have so far. I'm going to cast on the body of the it's a cardigan. I'm going to cast the body on today because I've reached a point where I need to measure my son's arms before I can continue. I know that these aren't long enough, but I want to know how long it needs to be before I carry on. So here it is, and this is the My First Cardi by Zanette Knits. I'll leave some links to her down below, and I am loving this. At first I was a little bit like I said, I was a bit scared in case I wasn't going to be able to do it or whatever, but I am now thoroughly enjoying it, and it's quite a straightforward pattern to memorise, but really like beautiful, like for how I feel like it looks more complicated than it is, which is obviously the nice way round. And yeah, it's just some of the little details, like these twisted knit stitches on the opposite side to the baby cables. It's just lovely, really nice. And I'm using the Regia, I think I spoke about last time, Regia Grey, that I was knitting a pair of socks in. Don't know where they are. I was knitting a pair of socks, and I've been knitting them for about 10 years and decided that I wanted to rip them out. So this is that yarn. This is the nice ball though, not the has been in the sock ball. And then this red is some kind of unknown fingering weight from my stash. I've had it for quite a long time, but I just thought it looked really smart with the grey, and so my son will have a nice smart little jumper or cardigan, and really enjoying it. I'm knitting it on slightly smaller needles than the pattern calls for, but I really like the fabric that it's giving me, and then obviously once it's blocked I think that the yarn will sort of soften up a little bit and it's going to be really nice, cosy, but still light little cardigan for him. I'm knitting the size 18 months, and yeah, I would like to get this sleeve finished by the end of the day. Once I have my child with me, I can measure his arms and then get that finished, and then I'd like to get as much of the body done as I can, and I'll probably cast the second sleeve on, and then I can take this out and about with me and knit the body at home. So yeah, I'm really enjoying knitting that. and I'm definitely going to be putting myself out there to do some more test knits, because it's quite exciting to knit something that like has not been knit by very many people before, to be able to help like new designers and or not new designers get their patterns ready to be published, things like that. And yeah, it's just quite exciting. I'm really keen to be a little bit more part of the community. You know, I post on Instagram quite a lot, and obviously I've started a podcast, but I feel like the introvert in me is really like intimidated by putting myself out there in the community and like communicating with people and talking online, particularly talking online with people. And so I'm really kind of challenging myself this year to grab the bull by the horns, I guess, and just kind of get stuck in, because it's such a fantastic community. And you know, I don't know very many people, I think I said this last time, I don't know very many people in real life who knits, at least not in my area, and so you know, I definitely want to meet more people who knit. So there we go. I'm hoping that I can like be quite brave in talking to people when we're in Farnham and at Unravel, and hopefully make some new knitty friends. So we'll see. We'll see. So that's all that I'm working on at the moment. I do have a pair of socks on the go. Always have a pair of socks on the go, so they're not really going to make an appearance. They'll probably show them off when they're done, but right now I'm not going to show them off. So let's see if I have bought anything. I have been saving up for Unravel. I've got a little shopping list, I've got some plans. I sort of sat down at the end of last year, beginning of this year, and planned out what I wanted to knit this year, because I wanted to be much more intentional with my yarn purchases. I have fairly recently started to knit with much higher quality yarn. I would buy higher quality yarn, like one skein of something, and then I would just let it sit and I would just look at it. And you know, it would normally be a fingering weight, so all I kind of thought about was socks, and then I kind of thought, oh well, this is too nice to put into socks, I'll save it for something special. And like, these special things never really come up. Sometimes they do, but more often than not they don't. So it was definitely, I was definitely wanting to be much more intentional with my yarn purchases. And also I do have quite a good stash, not a huge stash, not as what I used to have. I used to have a ridiculous stash, and a lot of stuff that I was just never going to use because I just didn't want to use it, but I got it cheap or something like that, you know. So I have definitely pared down my stash recently, but I'm wanting to actually use the stuff that I have. So I know I have a couple of sweater quantities in my stash, and I have found some patterns on Ravelry that I am planning on using those for. And then I have quite a lot of, you know, individual skeins of, like I say, fingering weight. So I've found a couple of shawls and things like that, and I'm trying to work through my stash and pair up things that look nice together. But I want to buy some things when I go to Unravel, so I thought, well, I'll save up and I'll make a plan so I at least know what I'm looking out for. I was going to go through all of the vendors list and decide what I was going to buy in advance, but I thought there's a potential there for disappointment and things like that, so I will just have an idea of the kind of things that I am in the market for, and then I'll let myself be inspired to pick things up whilst I'm there. So I was supposed to not be buying yarn so that I could save up, and I have been very good. I did buy a couple of balls of the Katia Merino Baby because I want to make a couple of little hats, one for Aiden, my son, and one for the new baby. These will be like Christmas presents next year, and I wanted to have the yarn for that so that I could make it in advance. But then I think I possibly mentioned last time that I had made a purchase at the end of last year which I knew wasn't going to arrive until this year, and that was the pre-order for the Wool & Vine yarns Winter Solstice in Valeris, and it came last week or the week before. It was so exciting. Wool & Vine is one of those indie dyers that I have been lusting over, and I just didn't feel like I could justify buying one skein. Because I'm wanting to be more intentional with my yarn purchases, I thought, well, is it going to be too nice, too special to just knit a pair of socks with? And the colours, all of her colours are so beautiful that in some ways it seemed a shame to just knit socks with them, which is ridiculous. I wanted to knit something more than just socks. But when she announced that she was doing this Winter Solstice in Valeris, I was like, yes, I need that. It's a colourway inspired by a book series by Sarah J Maas, and it's a book series that I really, really love, and so I just had to get it, and it just is, it's perfect. It came, and it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm not sure if I can cover my face. Is that going to help? Look. I'm not sure you can be able to see, but it is really beautiful. There's some really beautiful, like, there's purple, then there's a kind of cream in there, and then there's just some little flecks of blues and like oranges as well, and oh, it's just really lovely, like a kind of greys in there. It's really, really pretty, and I'm very excited. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to knit with it. I'm sure I have something that would complement it, so I could make a shawl maybe, or maybe a cowl, or maybe I will make a pair of nice socks. I'm not sure, but yes, very excited to have some Wool & Vine yarn in my stash. I'm tempted, I might just put it here. I might just put it there and let it be an ornament for a little while. But yes, I'm very excited about this. Another purchase that I made, I felt like it was okay because it was more of a tool rather than like a material, and that is a set of sock blockers. I wanted sock blockers for a little while, not so much for blocking my socks, but for photographing them. I don't block my socks. I don't see the point. But for photographing them, and then particularly once I decided I was going to start a podcast, I thought, you know, holding up a sock like this, it doesn't look attractive. But I thought, you know, I see all the other podcasters do it. They hold up their sock on their blocker, and it just seems, it really shows off the yarn and the stitch pattern if you've used one. So I thought, yes, I need a pair of sock blockers. I'm going to be honest, these were just a reasonably cheap pair that I got off Etsy. I can leave a link down below. But I'm really pleased with them. You know, they're really nice quality. There's not really any rough edges to like snag yarn on or anything like that. They've got pretty hearts in them. They're good, you know, they don't feel flimsy or anything like that. They came well packaged. What more can you ask for? So yeah, it does the job. It does the job, and that's all you need. Just needed the socks to look a bit more attractive when I held them up, and that's what I've got. So there we go. And then the final thing to show you was a gift, so it doesn't count, right? It was a gift from my husband. He went away to Switzerland last week, and I always kind of say, if you're gonna get me anything, then maybe visit like the local yarn shop, and if they have any local yarn, definitely get local yarn, but if they just have something that looks unusual, interesting, then get that instead. And he had enough time to go to the yarn shop, which is quite rare actually, but very exciting, and he brought me back this, which is absolutely beautiful. It's not a brand I've heard of before. Kremka Soul Wool Lazy Lion. Yeah, I've not heard of this brand before. I think it's South African. Don't know where I got that from. Yeah, South African. Or it's sourced in South Africa. Don't know where the yarn's actually from. Probably should have looked that up. But yeah, anyway, here it is, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Some really beautiful autumnal colours, greens, a little bit of pink, some red, some like little kind of slightly burnt oranges, golden colours, a nice kind of like goldeny greeny, olivey kind of things with purples. Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it smells like sheepy and nice, a bit vinegary. Maybe they use vinegar for their mordant? No, what's the one where it's sticking it? Anyway, it smells really nice and I really love it. No idea what I'm going to do with it. It's probably going to be on my shelf for a little while, just chilling out, looking pretty, making me happy. That's okay. That's okay too. Those things are allowed to happen. So that is it for knitting, making content. Having said that, I didn't have that much to talk about. Looking at my timer now and realising that I'm going to have to do some serious editing because I'm on 26 minutes on this recording, but I'm pretty sure I recorded for like 15-20 minutes on my other clip. So there's going to be some editing to do on this one. But I am going to move into a little bit of life stuff, so if that doesn't interest you at all, then thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you again soon. But if you are interested in hearing a little bit about my life, then stick around and we'll talk about that. Yeah, I had intended to get a podcast done a little bit sooner than I ended up getting it done, and there have been a few reasons why I ended up not getting it done. The biggest reason was that we moved house, which is really exciting. We bought our first house. We actually sort of put the offer in and got into the process in June, and it was all accepted and everything like ran really smoothly, and it was all going really well. And then just, you know, stuff happened. There was a new build involved in the chain, and new builds fairly notorious for not getting done, and so it took a long time, and so we didn't end up getting the keys until like mid-January, which was fine. But in like the intervening time between putting the offer in and like getting the keys, we found out we were going to have another baby, and so then that was kind of like less than convenient. This time, you know, these things happen, but yeah, probably some poor planning on our part, but you know, it was definitely one of those things where you're kind of like, ah yes, okay, well maybe we should have thought about that a little bit better. But yeah, so I have not been the most useful packer, mover, doer of things. Having said that, I did do a fair amount of decorating before we properly moved in, and I have been able to do some little things, so it's not too bad. But yeah, really excited to be in our first sort of proper home, but that definitely took up a lot of our time, with having to pack, and then obviously we had to pack things away, and we moved some stuff into storage to give us space because we were kind of packing and moving over Christmas, and we were planning to have guests and things like that. We wanted to have space for people, but we also wanted to start packing so that we weren't doing it all last minute. So we had to get a storage unit, and we moved a lot of stuff into storage, which was fine, but then obviously you don't have some stuff that you would like to have. We didn't have any of our books, and I didn't have very much yarn, and we didn't have any DVDs and things like that, so it was definitely a bit like, oh, should we do this? Oh no, that's in storage. So that was a little bit stressful, and a lot of the stuff is still in storage, so yeah, because we've been doing decorating, there were definitely some things that we wanted to get done before we moved in. We wanted to make sure that like the children's room was all decorated so that they weren't sleeping, or so that he wasn't sleeping in a room with like paint fumes and things like that. So we wanted to get that done, and then now we've just finished our bedroom, so we've finally just been able to unpack all of our clothes. So slowly kind of clearing through all of the bags and boxes that we have lying around. But now we're kind of on a few bits that need to be done in the office. Oh, it's definitely a totally different experience, I think, moving into a house that you've bought versus a house that you're renting, for us anyway. I'm aware that the sun is like moving over and I feel like I'm like going like this. Yeah, when we've moved into houses that we've rented, I feel like we've just kind of like thrown all of our stuff in, and there'll be a room that we don't need to use, and so we'll just throw everything in there and we'll unpack as we go, and things just kind of find their spaces. Whereas this time, because we want to be here for a long time, we want rooms to be decorated before we properly use them, and we want like to, I don't know, we want to find the homes for things so that we're not constantly kind of like pulling out everything out of the cupboards and moving everything around. I always feel like renting feels very temporary, and I don't know whether that's because we have just moved so much. I think we've been together, we've been living together for about 7 or 8 years, and we've probably moved 6 or 7 times in that time. And so it's always felt very temporary for us, and so it really, we just kind of were happy living out of boxes a little bit. You know, there was always a box that wasn't really unpacked properly or whatever, just kind of sitting in the corner of a room somewhere. Probably this previous house that we were in wasn't so bad. That was probably the most unpacked we've ever been. But yeah, I always feel like we've just kind of been waiting to buy a house, and now we've done it, and now it's like, oh, decorating, and it's expensive, and you know, I don't know, it just feels a lot more permanent, which is really lovely. I feel like we've really settled here. You know, we've only been in like what, 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, and we already feel like this is home, which is really nice. So yep, there was that. And then obviously with being pregnant, that's kind of like, I'm really uncomfortable in this chair. That's kind of means that sometimes it gets to the end of the day and I'm just exhausted, and so I don't really want to do anything. But we did have our 20-week scan last week, which was very exciting. If you don't know how it works with having a baby, normally you get like 2 scans, at least in the UK, I don't know about anywhere else. You normally get 2 scans, provided everything's going okay and they don't have any concerns or they don't want to just check anything else. You get 2 scans, and the first one is a growth scan, and then they tell you like when your due date's going to be based on how big the baby is. And then the second scan is at 20 weeks, and they call it an anomaly scan, and that then the baby is like a good size. They can like look at like their brain and their heart and their stomach and all these kind of things, and make sure that there's nothing to be concerned about. But it's also where they can tell you whether you're expecting a boy or a girl, depending on whether or not your baby is behaving itself. And we wanted to find out if we were having a boy or a girl, and we're having another little boy, so we're very, very excited about that. We have one crazy little boy already, and so we are a bit like, oh, we're going to be adding another boy to this. But you know, every child is different, so he could be totally different from his brother. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's really exciting, and yeah, now I feel like I can start kind of planning and getting things sorted and getting things ready. I mean, I'm only 21 weeks, so it's still, you know, a little way to go. We don't have to be packing bags and things like that, but it's nice to get out the old baby clothes and get them like sorted and see if there's anything that really could do with going, or if there's anything that needs to be replaced and things like that. So yeah, that was very exciting. But yeah, those are the sort of things that have been happening for us recently. than that, it's been fairly uneventful, but I think moving is a pretty big event, so I think that's an event enough. I think we are planning to have a fairly relaxed February, March, April, May before the baby's due in June. We've got some family coming not this weekend, but next weekend, which will be really nice. And then the following weekend is Unravel, which I'm really excited about. I'm particularly excited about it because it will be the first time since my son was born that I have been away on my own. So I'm really excited about that. I'm nervous because I don't know why, because he sleeps through the night. He doesn't need me anymore in the night and in the day. But I'm just, it's gonna be weird to leave him. And I mean, he has days when he's with the childminder, or if I'm working, then he'll have days with Daddy, and you know, or even if I'm not working, then sometimes Andrew might take him out to the coast and go and see a train, just the two of them, and I'll, you know, stay here and do something else. And you know, so it's not like he's never away from me and I'm never away from him. But I don't know, it just feels different because I'm the one going. I don't know, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited to get away and do something where I don't have to worry about where the little person is. So that'll be really nice. So yeah, but then other than that, I think it's going to be a fairly relaxed spring before the summer gets really crazy. But we'll see. I'm sure things will come up. I know that my husband's got at least one other work trip, and me and Aidan might tag along on that. We've done that before, and that's always quite nice. And we sort of go a couple of days before he needs to be there, or stay for a couple of days after he needs to be there, and we get to explore a city that we've not been to before. So we might do that this time, but we'll have to see. Depends how I'm feeling. But yeah, I think that is everything. This was a much more successful podcast than any of the previous attempts, so that's nice. I'm hoping that I won't have to like chop in any of the footage from other episodes, although I really feel like I'm like sinking. Bye. But yes, this may be a good time to end. Yes, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I will be back a little bit sooner. So I really like doing the podcasts, and I kind of feel like if I don't just do it, that it starts to become a thing, like, oh, I've not podcast yet and I've got so much to talk about, and will I remember everything, and blah blah blah. So if I can keep it regular, then hopefully it'll be easier to do, and then hopefully they'll be shorter, because I feel like it's going to be really long. So I'm sorry about that, and I should just shut up and stop talking. I should just stop talking. Thank you very much for watching. Do check out all the links down below for things I've talked about. And yeah, please go over and follow me on Instagram as well, and like, talk to me over there. I'm doing the February challenge. Well, I just realised that it's the 5th today and I didn't do the 4th, and I only kind of got into it yesterday or the day before, so bear with me on the February challenge. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!